Hello, and thank you for attending. I'm Bob Lampkin, and welcome to the 10th in a series of our QBR masterclasses entitled Change the Direction of Your Partner-Led Revenue. Today, you're going to hear from two of the channel's infamous madmen, Gary Morris, CEO and founder of Successful Channels, and Stephen Kellam, CRO of StructuredWeb. They're going to go back in time with John Hamm to highlight how the old approaches won't work anymore. Innovation in partnership management and demand generation is critical to generate meaningful growth. The number one priority for most business partnerships in 2023 and 2024 is to enable more partner-generated, originated, identified, developed, or delivered revenue. Gary and Stephen will share their thoughts on how to implement innovative partnerships, management, and demand generation techniques that will yield measurable partner-led revenue growth. Just a quick note before Gary begins, the masterclass will run approximately 45 minutes with another 10 to 15 for questions and answers. We encourage questions. Please use the Q&A function on your Zoom link to record your questions. As a final note, at the conclusion of the masterclass, you will be presented with a short survey. For those of you who will participate in this survey, we will send you a copy of all the slides used in today's masterclass. So without any further ado, here's Gary Morris to kick it off.
Thank you, Bob. Stephen and I love the Mad Men series. And as you can see, we look like we're right out of standard casting. Not really. Actually, we'd likely be out of work if we were in Hollywood. So let's stick with our day jobs. The theme of today's presentation is change the direction of your channel, of your demand generation. And that was inspired by the madman character, Don Draper, played by John Hamm. Don Draper was ahead of his time and encouraged his clients not to settle for old-fashioned approaches for creating interest in their brands. In 2023, the traditional demand generation approaches simply don't work as well as they used to, because it's hard, too complex, and there's too much competition to break through. Today, Stephen and I are going to do a review of an evolving new AI-enabled approach for building demand that starts with where your partners are with their marketing sophistication life stage. This partnership engagement process meets them exactly where they are and provides both descriptive and prescriptive approaches that align with their goals and capabilities. Stephen and I will tag team to outline a process to help typologize your partners at different stages and needs, and then align plans and tools to match. Then we'll share the latest techniques in message development, execution, and measurement. Our plan is to share a new integrated process for partnership management, demand generation, and performance management. It's going to be fun and an interactive session, including polls and surveys to get all of you involved in the discussion.
Hey, Gary, look, I just want to say as you get going, thanks for having me. And I think something really interesting, Gary was saying that demand generation, partner-led revenue has changed a lot, right? Our whole presentation, think about what it's changed in the last 60 days, Gary. We started looking at this 120 days ago. I'm not sure AI was really on the tip of everybody's tongue. So not only has it changed dramatically for the market, but it's evolved quite a bit, even in 60 days.
Well, fortunately, we have one of the luminaries in AI on this call, Stephen Kellam.
I don't know about that, but I'm surely involved in it. How's that?
That's good. So the glue that's going to hold the two parts of what Stephen and I are covering is this 7-step process for driving partner-led demand revenue. The process is more than just demand generation. It begins with the segmentation of your partners based on their business needs, goals, and marketing sophistication levels. And sophistication is more than just a measure of how many resources they have. It's the sheer volume of business activity that's necessary to run a partnership business model makes even the most motivated partner executives very challenged with putting demand generation into action. The process we'll be outlining includes 3 levels of partnerships defined by their marketing sophistication. or the time they have available to dedicate to it. We'll show you how JBPs, joint partner plans, differ by level, and how action plans can be developed to ensure that they actually get completed. Stephen will then share an innovative method to build messages, execute, and track outcomes in a scalable and smart way using new technologies. And I'll bring it back together to illustrate what a one-click MBR, monthly business review, quarterly business review, looks like in the latest partnership model. So as I mentioned, all of your partners are likely sophisticated business people, but they have different limitations with their ability to generate demand, given their time, experiences, and tools. This typology attempts to group partners based on their level of demand generation sophistication. Each partnership level or type is served with a prescriptive approach on the modest end and a descriptive approach on the higher levels of sophistication. This allows for easier execution for time challenge segments and more flexibility for segments that can take full advantage of the latest techniques. In today's session, we'll align resources, approaches, and tools to each segment and provide both descriptive and prescriptive approaches for driving more demand and build stronger, more committed partnerships. Now, at Successful Channels, our company, we have developed a partnership life stage scorecard system. This is used for a wide range of capabilities development areas, including assessing partnership fit, onboarding, sales enablement, technical enablement, services enablement, etc. Think of it as a kind of a sophisticated to-do list of activities that are required to be a best practice partner for a brand. Now, here's an assessment of a wide range of partners on their marketing capabilities for demand generation. We've grouped partners based on these demand gen enablement areas, and 3 segments emerged from our research. The 3 key areas of content, campaign, and lead operations were pretty consistent by segment. And your partner ecosystem is unique and will have similar groups or levels of demand gen sophistication among your partners that need specific guidelines for achieving success. If any of you have an interest in accessing this marketing scorecard for your partner ecosystem, please reach out directly to me.
Hey, Gary, this is a really interesting slide. Sorry, before you go into that, I think the way you've laid it out is really a good way to do it because it's not necessarily by size. We've always looked at small, medium, and large. I do think resources matter, though. There are going to be some small partners that will dedicate the right resources to marketing because they believe in demand generation, and they're going to get ahead. And I think as we walk through this, we're going to talk about, how do you figure that out as a vendor, right? And how do you take advantage of that?
Yeah, and look forward to the next section where Stephen will get very prescriptive on how to deliver basically demand development services specifically to each of these segments.
Yep.
So we're going to start with our
first poll question. What are the biggest challenges that limits your channel's team's execution of JBPs and QBRs? Please select all that apply, and we'll give you a few moments to fill that out, and we'll get right back to you with results.
Okay, so let's end the poll and display the results. There we go. Okay, so looks like the lack of one-click QBRs and the lack of updated data are the 2 biggest challenges for limiting JBP and QBR execution. So, I mean, obviously, data is the biggest challenge. Is that, here we are running. I've heard many times from channel sales executives saying that they have very poor supporting systems to help them deliver business performance reviews with their partnerships. So that's, I think, pretty consistent. And then that's followed by some other desktop tools and lack of notifications. Stephen, any observations on this? Look,
data is the biggest thing, right? And it's valuable on both ends. It's impossible to put a QBR together well if you don't do that data. It can be incredibly frustrating if you can't do that. And it's incredibly frustrating on the other end if that right data is not there. Because it's not data of just what I've done, it's the data, what could I be doing? How do you analyze it? How do you take advantage of it? If you don't have that data, can't analyze it, QBR is not going to be as good.
Sounds good. All right, so let's end the poll and get back to the presentation. Okay, so driving more partner-led revenue or partner-originated demand starts with a strong, thoughtful, mutually developed joint partner business plan, or JBP. This starts with agreed upon targets, including revenue, pipeline, the number of new logo accounts, the number of deals, vertical focus, and year-over-year growth. These targets are the what of the plan, and the business action plan is the how of the plan. Action plans are usually defined for a business for marketing and enablement areas. We also are very excited to announce the newest component. It's overlap end customer account plans enabled with our integration with Crossbeam. Now, all of these components allow a channel sales manager to build a joint partnership plan in 60 minutes or less. And once you've built your annual plans, it's time to work your plan. This is the actual doing of a partnership plan. Now, most of you are familiar with MBRs and QBRs, monthly and quarterly business reviews. For most channel teams, these are virtually impossible to execute because of disconnected systems, use of desktop tools, and lack of guided how-to processes. And that was validated by the results we just saw on the poll. Now, all of this has changed with the introduction of our new one-click MBR QBR process. So here's what a best practice JBP, MBR, and QBR looks like. All elements of your plan included in a one-click presentation, instantly exported to PowerPoint or PDF. This is an excellent way for you and your partner executives to visualize what they're agreeing to and to accept the plan. And this is married with a one-click, fully integrated, up-to-date MBR QBR presentation. This is a simplified version of your full plan your work business plan. Now, typically, if a business plan is thoughtful, jointly created, and agreed to, the MBR is simply a review of the year-to-date performance metrics and tasks from your plans. So the questions you're answering are, how are we doing? And what are we doing to achieve those targets? Partnerships that generate growing rates of initiated deals are the ones that gets tasks completed and work their plans. Hey, Stephen, you have a lot of experience in doing quarterly business reviews. What are your experience on the characteristics of a good QBR?
Look, I think ownership is a big piece of it. The best QBR I've ever sat in is when whoever is having the QBR done for them has taken ownership and driven it. It's absolutely amazing when the organization that's having that QBR done pulls together and owns it, and then it becomes really relevant. And I think that's how you get executive buy-in. I think it's absolute key.
Thank you. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that partner sophistication is not necessarily the acumen of the executive team. It's more likely related to the importance and the development of their partnership with your brand. So applying this JBP model to different tiers of partners based on the sophistication of their partnership looks something like this. So for unsophisticated partners, the simpler or smaller partnerships have single performance capabilities metrics. These are largely self-managed partnerships. Sophisticated, those are the ones that have slightly deeper partnerships, and you have the opportunity to develop more aspects of your joint business plan. This can include a broader set of program metrics, onboarding activities, and a set of business actions in place to help achieve your joint plan goals. And very sophisticated, with your most strategic partnership, each player has made a deeper commitment to the joint business mission. Shared metrics can be much more diagnostic, and the shared capabilities can be across a broader range of activities, and your action plans can be much more targeted to better align with your partner's business priorities. Now, similarly, the cadence plan for how often you interact with your partners is very different by level. The unsophisticated partnerships track their performance and actions on their own. And as most channel sales executives do, they focus on where the most potential exists. These higher potential partnerships are worthy of more frequent reviews and support. The big innovation we're discussing today is how automated JBP tools and one-click QBR export now make what has been impossible in the past possible, enabling channel sales executives to do partnership business reviews every time they speak with their partner contacts is now doable at scale across all your managed partners. And the question we get asked a lot from channel and ecosystem executives is, what process do we do to put this into action? So the plan your work is, you set targets, you plan actions, you scorecard capabilities, plan end customer overlap accounts, create supporting tasks, and accept your plan. For any given partner, all of this can be done with in 30 to 60 minutes with the use of a guided automated tools. And then the work your plan steps include monthly and quarterly business reviews, typically 15 minutes. Then you can spend the rest of your time with your partner helping them get stuff done. So we're going to take the second poll. I'll just read the poll, and then Bob, you can get us started. What are the most important marketing capabilities for your partners? If we can activate the poll, please.
Okay, well, let's have a few moments to fill this out. Very interesting questions and comments.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see the results on this, Gary. And one of the reasons I was very interested in doing this with you is because your audience, everyone out there, hi, is mixed, right? You've got sales, you've got marketing, you've got sales operations, maybe you got marketing operations. I, for the past year and a half, have sort of lived in a little bit of a marketing bubble. I think the AI is sort of taking us out of that. But I'm very interested in what the poll looks like, because there's a lot of perspectives out there, right? And sales may look at it very differently from what marketing or programs looks at.
Okay, let's give it another few seconds. Looks like
because Gary and Bob,
results.
if it was marketing, if this was just marketing on the end, I would be pretty sure which one would come up. I could be wrong, but I would.
Let's see if you're right, Stephen.
Okay, I'm going to say it's content marketing. It is content marketing. It absolutely is. So let's see if I'm right, and we'll see what everybody else says.
Okay, I think we're going to finish with the poll right now. If you
I'm ready. I'm willing to go out on a ledge on this, Gary, because I see this every day.
There he goes.
74%
content marketing. Good thing we invited you to join us. And then lead operations, which is, when you get your responses, what do we do with them? Are we registering?
That was my George Costanza moment. I'm done. I can't get a higher level than that, Gary.
Okay. Bravo, Stephen. Well done. So a lot of the traditional website and digital marketing and email, that was innovative, 5-7 years ago, really isn't the key driver of marketing today. Stephen, any other observations on this before we turn it over to you?
I think the content affects everything, and I think it's how you define content. Some people may think, oh, I'm just doing emails, but landing pages, video, the website, content has gotten very broad, and it really needs to be enabled to a great degree. So I think a lot of it has to do with how do we consider content, and as we walk through it, it's going to be interesting to see how folks react to this.
All right, well, let's end the poll, and I'm going to advance to the next slide and turning it over to Stephen Kellam.
Oh, thanks, Gary. Hey, the way StructuredWeb looks at demand generation is around the 5 C's. We use them as a building blocks, and they are sequential. It does make a difference what order you take them in, right? And we're going to walk through all 5 today. Create, build strategic marketing programs for effective content creation. Connect, allow partners to connect with vendors under one central portal. Sounds like a no-brainer, but we'll see. Communicate, empower partners to amplify and communicate vendor and partner brand value propositions. And convert. This is the big one, right? We're doing all the other C's, but in the end, how we're going to be measured and how we're successful is going to be on convert, right? If you're talking about partner-led revenue and you're talking about leads, this is what matters. Okay, calculate at the end. Look, when we did the 5 C's, we wanted everything to have a C in front of it. Technically, it probably should have an M for measurement, but then we'd have 4 C's and an M, right? So we stuck with the 5 C's. Okay. And we're going to start with create. Create is the biggest obstacle. We just saw that a couple minutes ago, right, in the poll. So build strategic marketing programs through effective content creation. This is hard. This is really hard. I was on a webinar a couple of days ago with a vendor, and they are absolutely all through the channel. And the biggest challenge they're having now is because content is hard for them to get. They can't focus on every partner group. Gary, we're going to talk about unsophisticated, sophisticated, and very sophisticated. They're having to make a choice because they can't deliver content to all 3. Think about this. If you have 8 emails and you have 8 verticals to target and you have 8 language to translate in. So Bob, what's 8 by 8 by 8? What's the number there? It's 512, right? So 512 pieces of content. And Gary, by the time you or the vendor creates 512 pieces of content, it's 6 weeks later or 6 months later, and the market has shifted. That's why it's so important, because you have to channelize, personalize, and translate. The way it's been done has been really hard, which is why we're going to talk about AI. Okay, here's the poll question.
To what degree have you implemented an AI channel initiative? Select all that apply. And in a few moments, we'll see what the results are.
Okay, Bob, how long do you want me to wait before I tell you what the answer is going to be?
We're gonna give them another 30 seconds. And,
I've done this before. I just did this yesterday, and I was blown away.
Okay, I'll
Gary,
give you a chance to give a guess.
I've been on at least 40 AI conversations with vendors between 500 million and 50 billion over the last 2 months. So pretty good take on this one.
Yeah. Okay, we're getting a lot of responses. I guess this is a very interesting topic. Let's give it another 15 seconds or so, and we'll see we'll see whether or not Stephen was accurate.
Well, look, it goes from I don't want to talk about it to my head exploded, and then somewhere in the middle. And the challenge is every organization wants to have an AI initiative. The question is, what is it, and can they do it?
Let's take a look at the results. Could you show the results, please?
Okay. All right, so we have an organizational, but nothing for the channel. Okay, not surprised on that one. And we have no organizational channel AI. We are freaking out over AI. All right, so 80% is either we don't have it, we're freaking out over it, which includes we don't have it, and we have it, but we haven't done the channel. So 80%. The poll that I saw yesterday was 100% we don't have a channel AI initiative. So somewhere between 80 and 100. So how do we solve this problem? I think that's the question. That's what we're going to walk through, and we're going to spend time on create, right? If you go to the next slide. We have to understand what generative AI is. And I think we need to figure out as a channel how to diffuse the situation a little bit. I was doing a podcast with probably one of the smartest people in the channel about a month ago. And the level that he was talking about of AI and copying code and copyrights and was way up here. And I said, oh, I almost said his name. I said, let's just take it down a notch. Let's look at content. Where is it most valuable? And how do we securely figure out how to use the right AI to be successful? And it's all about understanding generative AI. So generative AI, first of all, is not a search engine. It's a large language model. So that's the challenge. It's not searching this database. It's trying to predict what's the next word in a sentence. And you can train it. I think that's the key that we're going to go through. How do you train it? How do you manage it? Because if you set ChatGPT, or we're going to talk about Channel GPT, temperature very conservatively to 0.2, it's going to say ServiceNow is a cloud-based technology, or it may say Charleston is, where I live, a city in the South. If you set it at 1.2 and try to get creative, it's going to say ServiceNow is a demand from a hungry patron at a bar, or it's going to say Charleston is bubbles in the sand. Somewhere in the middle, we have to figure it out. You out there may have creative people that are doing social and they want to figure out, I need to make this super creative and I want to edge that a little bit. So how do you build that? How do you train that? And how do you do QC on it? A lot of folks, I think it makes sense to start very simple and say ServiceNow is a cloud-based technology and write beautiful content, but keep it really simple. But to do that, you got to be able to train. Okay, real quickly, why are you doing this? Look, generative AI addresses the biggest challenge we just talked about, and you can keep it really simple. How do you take your marketing message, or better said, how do you make partners good storytellers? Because in the end, partners need to be storytellers for their brand and for your brand as well. Okay, so we're going to introduce Channel GPT. This is what we do at StructuredWeb. Gary, we started looking at this 60 days ago. It didn't exist in the market. However, we've been working on it for over 2 years. And the reason we didn't bring anything out is really the technology wasn't there. Until OpenAI came up with 3.5 version, we didn't feel that the technology was really there. But we were building the processes of how do you train the content? How do you edit it? Most importantly, how do you do QC to make everything's right? There's a lot of inputs into that process, and we had to make sure they were all there. But what we've done is created a just-in-time channel marketing production system that really solves a lot of these problems. And look, I wish everyone would rush out and buy it. That's not the point of this. The point of it is to let everybody know it exists. It's there. You should be figuring out what is your channel AI strategy. And it's going to get there. There's no question about it. It is going to get there. It's just who's going to deliver it. All right, Gary, you might realize I'm a little passionate about this stuff, but we sort of opened it. This is pretty funny. I was on a webinar the other day and I brought this up for the vendor challengers, and a vendor was on it with me and she started laughing before I even got to the thing. I don't like to read through slides, but I said complexity in creating marketing materials, challenges in tailoring, difficulty in configuring assets, and experiencing poor uptake and engagement with present co-branded marketing initiatives. Gary, you and I could just do a webinar on that alone. She started laughing because she goes, this nailed it. And then you look at the partner challenges, and I think it's the same for the unsophisticated. They're really clueless on the content, need a lot of help. The sophisticated, they may have some resources, but probably enough. They still need to personalize it. And then the very sophisticated, the reason they're not using your content vendors is because it's not personalized. You may have channelized it, but that doesn't matter. They do not want to sound corn operated. They want to have their own message. And you got to figure out how to do that. So we got to simplify the process. So here's what we've done. Vendor uploads resources, system generates sales and marketing assets, vendors review and approve assets, localize and customize the options. Vendor can do it, or the partner can do it, and the right content to the right partner at the right time to follow the buyer's journey. By the way, Gary, you know this is all driven by the buyer. You got one buyer, you got 5 partners, you got 5 vendors. You got to get that content all the way down to that buyer. You better be able to move fast.
Automation is the only way to do it.
Well, you got to automate, but you got to automate well, right? Look, the ROI is interesting, right? We were talking to somebody the other day about this. I think the justification is pretty simple. If you can make it secure and you can make it work, right? Significant reduction in campaign creation time, absolutely. Substantial savings per campaign, faster response. That's the big one. You know, Gary, I was talking to someone said, you know, the 8x8x8 thing, 512 pieces of content. Even if you do it on your own, the market is going to shift, right? And I also think it's a big one that you can capture the mind share of the partners. Whoever gets ahead of this and puts this out and works with this, the partners are going to love you. I was a partner. It was the biggest struggle for me creating content, right? And then we can talk about distribution in a totally separate webinar, right? How that's going to work. Think about who they're working with. They're working with 600,000 partners, small partners. If you can enable them and you can enable those partners, win-win. Okay, really quickly, here's the Channel GPT toolbox. And the reason I'm going through this to a little bit of detail is because the next slide will make a lot more sense. In the next slide, we're going to lay out unsophisticated, sophisticated, very sophisticated, and we're going to talk about what you have to do with content, and we're going to talk about where each one of these would fit in, right? You don't necessarily have to turn this all over to the partner. You can do this as a vendor. So create AI. It's all about creating original content from scratch. Edit AI. How do I take that content? I can do it or turn it over to my partner, and the partner doesn't even need to know prompts. They just need to say, hey, I'm Steven, I'm in Napa, I sell into wineries, I want to reach out to the COOs about risk mitigation, business continuity. They hit a button and it pops out. And if I need it in 8 languages, I just hit another button. The recommend AI, we'll kind of skip for now. That's going to be matching up content to partners. We don't have that yet. It's going to be available next quarter, but we have Create AI, Edit AI, and Translate AI available now.
Excellent.
Okay, here's an interesting matrix. On the left-hand side, you've got create. That's our first C. You've got unsophisticated, sophisticated, and very sophisticated. It's important to the unsophisticated. It's very important to the sophisticated. The reason I put critical for the very sophisticated is, Gary, why do you think, I think we talked about, why do you think very sophisticated partners don't want the content from vendors?
Because they want their own content. They have their own message.
They want their own, no question about it, right? And if you look at the steps 1, 2, 3, 4, channelizing content, right? For the unsophisticated, the vendor's going to do that. They can use Create AI. Personalize the content. For the unsophisticated, the vendor's going to do that. They can edit AI. For the translate content, unsophisticated, the vendor will do edit AI as well. And I put rinse and repeat because you got to do it fast, and the vendor can do that. I won't go through all of them. I'll jump to the very sophisticated, right? Critical for them. As a partner, if you trust them, they can use Create AI to create content straight off your website or whatever you want them to use. They can personalize the content. They can target it to the right vertical, to the right individual, and to the right geo. And then they can translate it, and they can turn it into whatever 120 languages they want, and then they can rinse and repeat. So over and over again, I'm looking at the quote, I need to make my partners better storytellers. My only point on that slide, Gary, my last point before you flip over, is that you're doing this anyways as a vendor. The question is, it's not very efficient. Okay. Connect. Connect is the second one. You would think that this would be a no-brainer, that you could make portals that were very simple and easy to use for partners. This is a quote from a call that I was on last week, where this is not me making this up. This is a vendor saying 50% of my portal is junk. Partners do not want to surf your portal, right? Partners want to get in. They want to get what needs to be done that has value to them, get out and go sell. So how do we do that? And I think it's 4 easy steps, right? Keep it simple, less than 3 clicks, right? How do I go boom, 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 and get to where I need to go? Keep it relevant, right? Less is better. If I'm in your portal and I have to go through things that don't matter to me, I'm not coming back. But partners will do anything if they understand it has value for them, right? And then you need to add value. And this goes back to what we were talking about earlier on the create side for the very sophisticated. If they have value, if they can get personalized content, they will use it all day long. They're looking for time-saving devices as well, right? I was talking to a partner that was a 300-person, $50 million partner last week, and they're using Channel GPT. Or no, I'm sorry, they're using Chat GPT. I'm hoping they can eventually use Channel GPT. And here's the problem, Gary, is they were using it and they were still taking so much time because Chat GPT was not accurate. It looked beautiful, but it was not accurate. So once again, I think whether it's unsophisticated, sophisticated, very sophisticated, you can come in. And I think the last point on the portal, is you need to guide them. When they get in there, have smart workflows, have smart journeys. Gary, when I go to the dentist, there's a smart workflow on how I fill out my form. We have got to, in our industry, understand that partners and buyers are consumers, and it's the CX to PX that we really need to make happen, right? All right, communicate. I was on a webinar the other day with Heather Margolis from 360 Insights, and she could probably do this better than I can. She's one of the best communications experts out of a partner perspective. But I think the question I hear all the time is we need to do better to partner marketing, right? How do we do this? How do we empower partners to amplify and communicate both the vendor and the partner brand value proposition, right? And I think where most people are falling down, Gary, is in the two-partner side. Well, the content side is a challenge as well, too, and I think we can solve that. And then how do you take that content and how do you leverage two-partner marketing to be successful with that and help the partners be better communicators, right? I think it starts with create a collaborative experience. Listen to the partners, understand the partner's needs and the buyer's needs, and then personalize the message. Your two-partner marketing will be way better if you have good content and it's personalized. So this is where something like Channel GPT or AI can not just help you with your content you're creating for the partner use for the buyer, but the content that is created for the content created for the two-partner marketing as well. All right, go back. Sorry, Gary, really quickly. Step 4. Okay, originally I built this where build trust was step 2 because that was how we were thinking about it. And I was thinking about this, Gary, last night. I was going, this isn't written incorrectly. Trust comes after you create collaborative experience, be efficient and effective with what you communicate, and drive mutual success. And then I think you build trust, and then I think you can rinse and repeat on that. But it's all about, how do I communicate? What do I communicate? When do I communicate, right?
And I think there's a lot of great stuff here, Stephen. So let's keep it rolling. Here we go.
Okay, we'll keep it rolling. All right, convert. This is a really big thing. How do you arm your partners with marketing strategies, technologies, for leads and opportunities in sales? I was on a webinar again fairly recently, and the person at the vendor who was leading partner-led revenue growth said her biggest focus was on PX, right? So how do you build a great experience that's going to make your partner happy? They're going to be willing to work with you. It's going to help everything that you're doing with the partner. Build that great experience from when they come in to what sort of content to get to how you follow up with them. Then you got to provide the technologies, right? Are you giving them the tools to be successful? Very, very important at the unsophisticated because they don't have really good ways to do marketing. Important to the sophisticated because they're sort of marginal on that. They need a little bit prescriptive, maybe not so much. Historically, this is where you lost the very sophisticated because you didn't have a lot of tools to give to them because they have their own tech stack for all the marketing pieces. They're using Marketo, they're using whatever they're going to use. Here's the thing, with AI now, you can now add value to them. So better value to the partner, makes the partner more effective, makes them the user content, and great for partner experience, right? So I think, once again, Gary, AI changes everything. And last point on this, modify behavior, use incentive as you go through this. I think it's a big point, right?
Right. Awesome.
All right, we're going to do last poll. And the last poll is about, do you do marketing certification programs, which is an extension or a piece of Convert, right? This is a very small thing, simple thing you can do to be very effective with Convert.
Okay, let's take a look at what you think. We'll give you a few moments. Here's the poll.
Gary and Bob, here's what I'll tell you what I've seen. And this is what I've heard. Is there a lot of vendors who run a marketing certification program, but it's not an official marketing certification program. They're helping partners do a lot of this. And I'll show an example in just a moment. But they don't offer certifications like they would for a sales certification course or a product certification course.
Well, let's see
my thought. What's that?
I was going to say, let's see what our group thinks. Give it another 10 or 15 seconds.
I think this is a really interesting place and a really interesting idea because digital transformation is happening everywhere. It has not happened as well with the unsophisticated partners. And so how do we move them? They're not going to transform themselves. How do we catch them up? And if you can do something pretty simply, why not?
Okay, let's see. We'll give it another 5 seconds. And 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's show the results.
Okay, we do not run a marketing certification program. 50%. We run a marketing program with no forms. Nobody runs it. We're in the process of developing. 6%. Okay. All right. So most people aren't doing that. And one of the reasons I think they haven't been doing that is because they're too busy creating content. You knew I was going to say that, Gary, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Yeah. AI, what we're talking about from an AI perspective is not taking someone's job. It's allowing someone to do their job. Right? You can be creating content and worrying about that, or you can be working with partners and creating strategies to help your partners be better storytellers and be better marketing messages, right? And by the way, What I should have said is who needs to do more with less. I think 100% would say that in today's economy, right?
Yeah, sounds good. Well, let's keep this rolling, Steve. We want to make sure.
I got 3 minutes, Gary. I'm winding down. I got 2 more slides.
All right, good.
All right,
Perfect.
Here's the thing, and I'll go really fast on this. A marketing certification is not that hard to do. You can do something really simple, and particularly for the unsophisticated, right? There's really 4 layers to this. You have marketing activity, content syndication, landing page, virtual event. You have a learn metric, and you provide an incentive for that. You have a create a metric, whether it's implementing a code or creating within the TCMA platform. You have an incentive for that. And you have a share, right? So learn, execute, and share. By the way, thank you, Claudio Ayu from 360 Insights, for writing me with all this content. And Claudio and I talk on a regular basis of how do you integrate rewards and MDF into channel marketing automation. Look, it is an ecosystem that's out there. And if we tie it all together and we have great content, you can do something like this pretty simply. Okay. Last slide for me, Gary. It's driving visibility and ROI and reinforce success, right? Sales is a lagging indicator. This is nothing new to anybody, but I think there's 4 ways to look at this. Drive the ROI metrics, objectives for vendor to partner, and the content and everything we talked about in AI can help you get partners there and keep them coming back. Define ROI objectives, metrics of partners to prospects and end users. Better content. What if you could take your deal registration and enhance the success for 5% and you're a $5 billion company? Just do the math. What if you could do 2%? Okay, define ROI metrics, objectives for channel marketing efforts. Ties into that as well. What's your ROI? Gary, we could do a whole nother one on how do I tap back into Salesforce or my PRM and do the ROI of that. And then my final words on the whole thing, analyze the data. But if you're spending time creating content all the time, you don't have a lot of time. Adjust. Don't do the same thing over and over again just to do it. And reward. It's behavior modification. You don't want to make it so you're giving it to them for no reason. Figure out how to reward for the right things. All right, that's the 5 C's.
Yeah, one thing you said, Stephen, about tagging marketing-generated opportunities in CRM is critical. That's the golden chalice of marketing, is what is my marketing influence revenue, or what did I actually get? What was my return on investment on my marketing? So I would completely agree with that.
Yeah, every single conversation we have, we're integrating to somebody's CRM.
Well, I really like the summary of the 5 C's: partnership-led demand generation. I think you can see how supporting partnership demand generation includes both plan your work and work your plan steps. Sorry about my camera. It looks like I've got some issues, so I just turned that off. The great news of all of this is this can be included in a consolidated one-click MBR and QBR system. Everything you need to check in with your partners on performance and tasks can be included in your pre-made presentation. So this means that you've effectively eliminated most or all of the administrative work related to partnership management and can focus most of your time on being a performance, an enablement, and a task completion consultant. This will make partnership management much more fun and much more valued by your partner team. So sorry about this eye chart. This is an illustration of the steps we had discussed today. The selection and configuration of program metrics, recommended objectives in your JBP. We spent 12 years building and codifying best practices for every step in this end-to-end process. All right. So what we found is that our clients that follow this process are able to execute 3 or 4 times the number of business plans and QBRs than they were able to in the past. So to summarize today's QBR Masterclass number 10 takeaways: partnerships that consistently win, plan their work, and work their plans. Successful partnering is defined by having aligned goals, agreed upon targets, supporting action plans to achieve those targets. The participating team members are allocated task assignments and reminded of them monthly, and carefully develop content and messaging to support their demand efforts. And they're strong at execution, and they manage opportunities and conduct consistent MBRs and QBRs. Now, I'm exhausted thinking about all of the work of effective partnering to drive demand, to do everything that we said today. the only possible way to do all this work effectively is with the support of automation technology. There is no other way. So, Stephen and Bob, that was a lot of fun. I noticed several audience questions came across during our conversation.
There have
Bob,
been, and in fact, I would say this is the time, if you have a question, to add it, because the questions are coming in. Let me start with the first question. Is there a best practice on capturing partner marketing programs in a CRM? I'll be generic, but I use Salesforce.com.
Stephen, you want to take that one?
Stephen, you want to take that?
Yeah, I'll take that. Absolutely, there is. Going from an ROI, defining what the ROI is that you want out of that, and figuring out how to integrate it, what information you want to send back. Look, we do an integration at every single setup, everything that we do. And I think it starts with, what do you want to define and what's valuable to you, right? You know, is it leads, right? Or is it clicks, or is it opportunities? I think it starts with defining what you need from an ROI perspective, and then figuring out how to move that back into the system. And they're all doable. It depends on how much time you have from your IT team. Everyone is a little bit unique because everyone has a different Salesforce instance, and we've got to figure out how to integrate them well, right? But I think it starts with defining what the ROI metrics you want.
Well, I think the bottom line is being able to tag an opportunity in Salesforce with a campaign ID. That's simple. And that's the toughest spot. Can you tag an individual lead or an opportunity with a campaign ID of where it was invested? Then it's a straight path. Bob, what else you got?
Yeah, and you want to make sure you don't duplicate things too, right? So I think that's a piece of it as well too.
Okay, let's add the next question. How long does it take to get this JBP QBR system fully operational? Gary?
30 days. You can get your team operational in another 30 days. So from the day you start and turn it on, you can have a fully customized joint business planning and QBR system fully operational, and spend the next 30 days training and mentoring your team to be building plans and executing QBRs.
Okay, thank you. Another question. How do you train your AI tools? How hard and how long?
It takes about a day. Depends on what you're trying to do, right? You can put anything you want, right? You can put everything in that's public. You can put information that's private. You can put what you want to say in there. You can put what you don't want to say in there. You can say, I need emojis, or I don't need emojis. Pretty much you can train it any way you want, and you continue to upgrade on that too, right? You can put styles, tones, culture, put it any way you want.
Okay. Here's another one. Can these tools have different configurations? In other words, modules for different partner types? Gary?
Yes, most of our clients, when they're creating joint business plans and QBRs, have very different partner types and different partner levels. And each one of those has a different set of performance metrics, a different set of capabilities expectations, and a different set of business action plan requirements. So it's all configured based on the type or the level of partner.
And we're the same thing, Bob. Everything is broken down through configuration by who the partner is, where the partner is, and what the partner is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we have time for two more questions. Let's see. How does the integration with rewards work, and what do you do about MDF? Both of you can answer that.
Well, look, I'll start having run an MDF and an incentive company. Look, the people who are being most successful are rewarding for behavior modification. The question is, where do you get the budget, right? If you're on our side, if you're in, where do you get the contra budget? I understand that. But the differences we've seen for rewards, and it could be something really simple, or it can be cash, is massive. And I really don't understand why more MDF isn't tied into marketing automation, because while everybody's gone to proposal based on MDF, and partners aren't great at it, the two don't line up very well, right? We need to figure out how to make better pre-planned campaigns for partners.
Okay.
In the business plan, it's that simple. You create a business plan, you put a proposal right out of your business plan.
Okay, and someone was asking about the average costs, which is obviously a difficult question to answer depending upon what the usage is, but just a rough idea.
Gary, you want to go first? You can go
What does
first
it
on
cost?
that one.
Well, the old adage in software is, well, how much does it cost? Well, how much you got? So it depends obviously on the configuration, but the annual contracts could be 25,000 to 100,000, just depending on how wide a ecosystem, how many modules, etc. So all of that is configured.
Interesting, Gary, how you go about pricing. Forgetting about what the actual pricing is. This is based on the number of partners.
Yeah, the number of partners and the number of modules, generally, not users, partners.
Right.
Stephen?
Yeah, we're based on number of active partners. That's really the big thing,
Good.
right? We consider active partner someone engaging in a campaign or has a campaign set up. And, we have the SaaS and we have the support side and the setup. Those are the three pieces. And we're an enterprise solution, and it ranges somewhere between, 100 and 200 grand, right? All depends on what the size of the partners are. And it could go above that. If someone's got, 600 partners or 1,000 partners versus 200 active partners, obviously it scales up.
Yeah, I think that the reason I wanted to have that question answered is because the best way to know what it costs is to sit down and chat with Stephen or Gary and talk about what your actual requirements are. That way you can be much more specific. And finally, the last question: can I integrate with other PRMs?
For us, absolutely. Single sign-on user integration. So think of it for us as there's three types of integration. There's single sign-on, SAML 2.0 SSO can be done with any PRM, any CRM, any portal that you've got. Second is user experience integration. The entire partner planning, scorecarding, QBR process can be integrated into any PRM or any CRM. And then there's data integration. Data integration is typically with Salesforce, and that's a pretty standard. It's either connected app or managed package integration. Stephen?
Yeah, pretty much standard for us too, right? SSO, I'm not even sure I consider it integration anymore. It's SAML 2.0, right? It's pretty easy to do. And then the integrations into Salesforce or wherever else afterwards as well too, right? We're not a PRM. We're channel marketing automation, and we integrate into somebody's PRM every single time.
All right. Well, that leads us to the end of our presentation, the formal presentation. As I mentioned earlier, we have a survey, and if you do take the time to complete the survey, we will send you the PowerPoint slides or the deck as a reward for providing the survey. So thank you so much. It was nice to have you, Stephen and Gary. Thank you so much. And I wish everybody a good rest of the day.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Bob.